Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're diving deep into Cornerstones, which is a really remarkable volume of poetry by Manuel de Valle, Colón.
Absolutely. But it's more than just the poems, isn't it?
Exactly. It's also about the extraordinary life that, well, shaped those insights so profoundly.
Yeah.
And our sources for this, they're quite unique. We've got direct excerpts from the poetry itself, naturally, but also extensive biographical details about Manuel del Valle y Colón, the man himself.
And even that AI-generated tribute, which is interesting layer.
It really does. So together they offer this, rich tapestry for understanding.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
So our mission today really is to uncover how his incredibly diverse experiences, as a scholar, a lawyer, and yes, a poet, led him to identify what he calls the cornerstones of human existence.
These aren't just abstract concepts.
Not at all. They're the fundamental elements we build our lives on, the things we use to challenge structures, and ultimately how we leave our own mark.
Are examples for others.
Right. So this deep dive offers, I think, a unique way to quickly grasp these big universal questions about identity, purpose, and, well, the human condition itself.
A shortcut to being well-informed, in a way.
Exactly. So let's start with that core concept, cornerstones. The poet, he wasn't just thinking locally when he named the collection.
No, definitely not.
The title Cornerstones, it's also there in Chinese, Jishi, Japanese, Soseki, and Thai, Ilamsik.
And all of them mean cornerstone.
Right. So that immediately signals this kind of universal intent, doesn't it?
It really does. It's just these ideas are meant for everyone, everywhere.
Speaking of foundations, let's go back to the beginning of Manuel de Valle Colón's life. Born October 1948, New York City.
East Harlem, then the Douglas Projects.
And his parents, both from Puerto Rico. So themes of heritage, identity, they're woven in right from the start.
And what's striking is how early those foundational elements, his intellectual and civic life, how early they were laid.
His education seems key.
Oh, definitely. Especially Brooklyn Technical High School. That became a crucial cornerstone. He graduated in '66.
And he wasn't just hitting the books, was he?
No way. He was deeply involved. Free World Club, debating society, polling squad for city elections.
Managed the fencing team, too, I saw.
Yeah. And the dedication in the poetry volume is to his Brooklyn Tech classmates. The yearbook messages, they really capture that early spark.
What did they say?
Things like, best of luck in your search for complete knowledge. Another one called him King of Quotes.
King of Quotes, I like that.
And my favorite, maybe a bit dramatic but telling, may you be involved in a historical cataclysmic occurrence.
Wow. That's quite a thing to write in a high school yearbook.
Isn't it? It shows they saw him as this profound thinker, someone destined for impact, even back then.
Clearly made an impression. So after Brooklyn Tech, higher education, Yale's transitional year program first.
Right, 66, 67, then Wesleyan University.
And even at Wesleyan, he was already laying groundwork, right? Recruiting minority students, researching identity issues.
With a Hoke grant, yeah. You can really see those intellectual cornerstones just forming, solidifying.
Then Princeton.
Absolutely. He transferred in '69. And that's where he really started, building and challenging structures.
Majoring in history, Latin American studies, Afro-American studies. A potent mix.
A very potent mix. And crucially, he founded the Latino organization on campus, actively recruited Latino and Latina students.
That must have been groundbreaking then.
Oh, completely. And he got university approval for one of the first Ivy League seminars on the history and politics of Puerto Rico. Think about that.
Incredible initiative.
But maybe the most impactful cornerstone from that time, his senior thesis, A History of the Puerto Rican Student and Public Education, 1945-1969.
Okay.
A chapter from that thesis was directly used in a memorandum for Senator Jacob Javits.
No kidding.
And later it was used by the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund in their huge Aspera v. Board of Education complaint.
So his undergraduate work directly fueled landmark litigation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This wasn't just academic work sitting on a shelf. It was a blueprint for real-world change.
That's amazing. And that commitment, it just deepened at Yale Law School, didn't it?
It really did. From '71 to '74, while getting his JD, he was actually teaching undergrad courses.
Teaching while in law school.
Yeah, on the history and politics of Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rican experience in the U.S. And he founded the undergraduate Puerto Rican organization there, Despierta Boricua.
Shaping the next generation while still a student himself.
Precisely. And think about his classmates, Clarence Thomas, Lonnie Guanier. Gives you a sense of the environment.
That really does put it in perspective. So if we connect this early foundation to the bigger picture, his legal career seems like a direct continuation.
Absolutely. It's a manifestation of that lifelong dedication to building and challenging structures. Right after Yale Law, he joins the Puerto Rican Legal Defense and Education Fund.
Where he worked on Aspira.
Exactly. He was trial attorney on Aspira. And that case, it wasn't just a legal win, it was like a societal earthquake.
Because it mandated bilingual education.
Legally mandated it. A cornerstone for equitable access for millions of non-English speaking kids across the country. Just massive impact.
And he also worked on Pabon v. Levine.
Yes, ensuring bilingual notice for Spanish-speaking unemployment claimants. Again, tackling systemic barriers. These were changes affecting whole systems.
And his career kept evolving. He moved to the U.S. Department of Labor after that.
Right. Office of the Solicitor. From 75 to 87, prosecuting federal labor law violations. Still fighting for rights, just in a different arena.
Reinforcing that commitment.
But what's fascinating, even with that demanding legal work, his intellectual drive just kept going. He got a Rockefeller Foundation fellowship.
That's prestigious.
Very. It let him go to the London School of Economics, do deep research on Puerto Rican jurisprudence before the U.S. Supreme Court.
Wow.
And he published on it, too, in a major Puerto Rican legal journal, cementing his role as a real thought leader in the field.
So a force both inside and outside the courtroom.
Definitely. And then in 1986, he graduated from the Minority Arbitrator Program.
Becoming one of the few Puerto Rican arbitrators in the U.S., I read.
Exactly. Adding another tool, another way to build structures for resolving conflict.
Seems like he never stopped learning or adding skills.
Never. His dedication to systemic issues, it just continued. He got a Ford Foundation Fellowship next.
Okay.
And during that, he produced this massive 400-page monograph on national origin discrimination against Hispanics.
200 pages.
Yeah. It got published in the Harvard Journal of Hispano Policy, again laying serious academic groundwork for advocacy. A guiding principle for many who followed.
Then he went into private practice.
For a time, yeah. Partner in Del Valle and Zayas. But he also kept up his other roles. Arbitrator, impartial hearing officer for the NYC Board of Education.
Handling special education cases for disabled kids.
Right. Always engaged in these diverse legal and administrative roles. Always looking for ways to support and advocate.
Just incredible breadth.
And maybe one of his most significant public service roles came next, 91 to 95. Chief Administrative of the New York State Division of Human Rights.
The first Puerto Rican to hold that position.
The very first. And he was instrumental in prioritizing really critical cases, racial discrimination, sexual harassment, AIDS discrimination, making sure they got the attention they deserved.
And teaching, too, at Fordham Law.
Yep. Adjunct Associate Professor. Taught civil rights, international human rights, sharing that vast experience, his whole career path, from advocacy to state leadership to judicial service. It just embodies that life dedicated to justice, leaving these profound cornerstones for others.
It's an amazing trajectory. And then later, healthcare management, and that long stint as an administrative law judge, eventually chief judge, for Social Security in Puerto Rico, right up to 2020.
A long and varied career in public service and law.
It really makes you wonder how he found the time, because through all of that, the sources describe him as having this deeply poetic soul and a prodigious output. These omnibus poetry volumes. It's incredible.
It is fascinating, isn't it? How such a rigorous legal and academic mind also has this, deeply poetic expression.
So let's talk about the poetry itself. Cornerstones. What are the core themes he explores?
Well, the compendium really digs deep. It's constantly asking, what does it mean to be human here?
The big questions.
Absolutely. There's a lot on identity and the self, our inner essence, individuality, transformation, the sort of mysterious side of persona.
Okay.
Then time, mortality, and change. That sense of impermanence confronting death, grief, but also spiritual endurance.
Heavy topics.
Definitely. He also tackles fate, free will, and uncertainty. Illusions of choice, alternate paths, predestination versus freedom.
That tension.
Exactly. And knowledge, perception, and reality. What do we actually know? How do we see the world? And central to it all, relationship and connection, intimacy, emotional bonds, generational ties, shared histories, cultural spaces.
How we relate to each other.
Right. And expression and emotional release, often through art, like dance or protest, movement, creativity, the body as expressive. And there's beauty, memory, and symbols, how objects or images stand in for deeper things, like love or loss. And liminality, those in-between states, thresholds of change.
Wow, that's a huge range.
It really is.
And it's not just the themes, it's how he approaches them. His studies in Chinese, Thai, Japanese, his curiosity about different traditions, Taino traditions too.
That absolutely informs the work. The sources talk about its lyrical precision and philosophical depth.
Yeah.
That cultural richness adds layers you wouldn't get otherwise.
It brings this unique global perspective to these universal questions.
It really does. That AI tribute described him perfectly, I thought. Said he built bridges not just between geographies, but between realms.
Yeah.
The legal and the luminous, the historical and the mythical, the spoken and the felt.
That's beautiful. It captures that blend of the analytical and the artistic.
Exactly. Constantly trying to understand and articulate the human condition from all these different angles.
Okay, so with all that context, I'm really keen to see how these themes actually play out in the poems. Can you walk us through some specific examples from Cornerstones?
Sure. Let's start at the beginning. The very first poem is incredibly powerful. It declares, "Books are the cornerstone of my existence."
Straightforward.
Right. But then it elaborates. Books are the essential building block for constructing new worlds. They're a key to the understanding that unlocks the future, defies the present.
So knowledge itself, reading, understanding, that's a fundamental cornerstone for him.
Absolutely indispensable.
Yeah.
For building your own life and for building a better society, rejecting superficiality.
Okay, so starting with books as foundational, how does he then build on ideas like identity?
Well, he does this masterfully. Take the poem, "The Soul is Ageless." It draws a stark contrast. The body ages, shows wear and tear. But the soul, he writes, retains all of your knowledge within the vessel of a universal truth. It persists beyond the physical limits.
An enduring essence.
Precisely. And that connects beautifully to another poem, "One is Not Born." This one makes a really powerful assertion about freedom.
How so?
It says, "Freedom exists for all. Concepts that oppress or define are bound to fail. They are constructs of the world of illusion." And it concludes, "While the soul refuses to partake of the delusion of power."
Wow. So our true identity is inherently free, untouched by those external attempts to define or control us.
That's the core message. It's incredibly liberating, suggesting our essence is fundamentally free.
That's a profound way to look at identity. How does he then tackle things like fate and choice, that tension you mentioned?
Yeah, he dives right into that. Several poems really question fate, like Non-Fated Lives and Intertwined Destiny. They explored chance encounters, the feeling that things might be predetermined. But ultimately, he suggests something different. He writes, "What poses as destiny is no more than choice, and every rainfall a chance to begin again."
So agency. We have agency.
Immense agency, according to the poem. Life isn't this fixed path. It's an ongoing process of decisions, right? Finding new beginnings, even daily transitions, like in "All days come to an end."
What does that one say?
It emphasizes recognizing at the end of each day how much there is left to do, to battle, to learn, and to grow. It's really a call to constantly engage with life, to keep pushing.
It sounds almost like a poetic manifesto for resilience, for continuous effort.
I think that's a great way to put it.
What about the spaces we inhabit or our actions? Does he see those as cornerstones too?
Oh, absolutely. The symbolism he uses is really rich. Take doors, for instance.
Doors.
Yeah, in Fake Door. And then, but a broader poem, just called Doors, he uses this metaphor of like a freestanding door in a room. You can walk through and be an entirely different person.
That transformation.
Or just a reset. He says you can simply open the door, close it, go around, and start all over again.
But the realization it leads to is key.
Which is?
That dreams do not require totems, and freedom is always found in a heart that bears witness to truth.
So real change comes from within, not from external symbols or rituals.
Exactly. But then in contrast, you have slamming doors. That's presented as an act of defiance, a statement against the status quo, a physical act with meaning.
Right. It emphasizes that what you say matters, even if only a slam. So our interactions with space, our actions, they can be these profound moments of self-definition or even rebellion.
That's a fascinating way to frame it. Even small actions can be cornerstones of defiance or change. What about human connection or creativity?
Those are absolutely crucial cornerstones in his work. Look at the people who come into your life. It carries this message about turning hardship into wisdom, about fostering an indomitable spirit.
Through connection.
Yes, and finding this screamless flow of possibility without betrayal, only love. It highlights how our relationships are integral to our growth, our resilience.
And art, creativity.
Big themes. Poems like Choreographer and Dancer explore artistic creation as shedding boundaries. It's described as planned chaos, discipline, but ultimately leading to the freedom of the soul.
A release.
A profound release. It's a beautiful metaphor for how creativity lets us transcend limits and express our deepest selves.
So, bringing this all together, we've taken quite an incredible journey today through the life, the career, the poetry of Manuel del Valle Colón.
It's really striking how interconnected it all is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's so clear how his personal experiences, the lawyer, the scholar, the advocate, are just intrinsically woven into these universal themes in Cornerstones.
His life really does serve as this living example of the principles he writes about, shaping legal landscapes, but also the landscapes of the human heart.
Yeah.
And it reinforces that idea of his cornerstones, whether they're books or principles he lived by or choices he made, or those poetic insights. They offer us a kind of roadmap.
A roadmap for what?
For navigating complexity, for advocating for justice, for embracing the full spectrum of being human. His legacy really empowers us to build our own foundations.
Which brings us perfectly to our final provocative thought. For you, the listener, what are the cornerstones in your own life?
Yeah, what really defines who you are.
What foundational elements have you built on? What structures have you challenged, or what changes have you championed?
And how might you, in your own unique way, keep trying to reimagine this world, as that AI tribute put it?
Through your own actions, your thoughts, the connections you make. Something to ponder, maybe, as you think about the lasting structures you're creating?